Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1898 Cleveland Spiders MLB baseball season. Again, the Spiders were playing in the National League, the senior circuit, and their home field was League Park, which was still a wooden structure, not the very solid brick building that it became about 12 years later. And the Spiders had a very strong win-loss record of 81-68 in 1898. So they were 13 games over 500, winning percentage of .544, 21 games out of first place. This was a kind of a sad year for the Spiders. It was the last year that the established stars, the guys who've become very familiar to me or anyone who studies the team, and for the people of that era, it was the last year these guys were in Cleveland. They were all of the stars and the starting players who had made the Cleveland Spiders one of the best teams in baseball in the 1890s. They were all gone the following year, so that was very sad. And the second half of the year, they only had 4 home games in Cleveland, and it was the issue of the attendance was down again. And then there was no Sunday baseball. This was the real problem because folks back then worked Monday through Saturday. Sunday was the only day off most people had, and there was no night games. So really, the Sunday was the big attendance day, the big revenue day, and it was a business. So if you couldn't play baseball on Sunday, people couldn't. That's when you'd get the big crowds. During the week, most people couldn't come because they were at work. So it was. This was the real problem that we had here in Cleveland. It was because of these Christian ministers and who were against professional baseball on Sundays in Cleveland. So the first place team in 1898 was the Boston Beaneaters, who finished a record of 102-47, winning percentage of .685, very strong year. Second place, the Baltimore Orioles, 96-53. Third place, Cincinnati Reds, 92-60. Fourth place, the Chicago Orphans, 85-65. Fifth place, the Cleveland Spiders at 81-68. Sixth place, the Philadelphia Phillies, 78-71. Seventh place, the New York Giants, 77-73. Eighth place, the Pittsburgh Pirates, 72-76. Ninth place, the Louisville Colonels, 70-81. 10th place, the Brooklyn Bridegrooms, 54-91. Ooh, by the way, they got that name because a few years previously, 4 of the players had gotten married that year, so they ended up getting this name, the Brooklyn Bridegrooms. 11th place, the Washington Senators, 51-101, and 12th and last place, the St. Louis Browns, 39-111. There was no World Series in 1898, so the Boston Beaneaters were the MLB champions for the year. On February 15th, 1898, the USS Maine, which was a U.S. naval ship, was docked in Havana, Cuba, and there was an explosion, and it sunk there. 266 U.S. naval fellows died, and it was this led to the Spanish-American War, where the U.S. went to war with Spain, and it was a relatively short war, and it was fought in Cuba and the Philippines, and the fighting in Cuba was only for about 4 months, and the U.S. defeated the Spanish pretty easily. Fighting in the Philippines went on for about 3 years. As a result of the war, the U.S. acquired Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. And actually, this hurt MLB attendance. The war fever affected the whole country. There was no television or radio, but I guess people were reading in the newspapers and talking about it. And so it's hard. They lost interest in MLB baseball. It just didn't seem as significant. The schedule was expanded to 154 games in 1898. From 11 more games were added, and as I said, Cleveland had severe attendance problems. Frank Robeson had hired non-union strikebreakers to fight a strike of his streetcar workers. And Cleveland labor groups boycotted the Spiders games. So they were telling people, don't go to Spiders games. And as I said, the Spiders were on the road for most of the second half of the season. And for the whole season, they played 114 games on the road, only 40 games at home. The Spiders Payroll in 1898 was $38,000, one of the highest in the National League. They had spring training in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and there was a new rule in 1898 for the National League. 2 umpires were now working games. Before it had only been 1, and it was too hard for one guy to handle a game. And there was a lot of talk that the Spiders might move if attendance stayed down. Owner Frank Robeson scheduled a home game at Euclid Beach Park in Collinwood, which at that time was not a part of Cleveland, hoping to play a Sunday game to get attendance. It was on June 12th against the Pirates. He built a wooden ballpark in 2 weeks that had 8,000 seats, and 6,000 fans came. So that was good. That was a good gate. So he did the same thing. He decided to schedule another game for the following Sunday, June 19th, there as well. And the Spiders were arrested. Spiders players were arrested after the 8th inning. And this was the last straw for Frank Robeson. He finally decided that to stop trying to have Sunday baseball. He was fed up. He'd been fighting in the courts over the issue. And so his response was that after July 9th, the Spiders would only played 4 home games for the rest of the year, and he scheduled the rest of the games on the road. And the other teams in the National League went along with it because they weren't happy about low attendance in Cleveland because it was less income for them. So of the last 87 games the Spiders played, 83 were on the road. Now I'm a strong Christian myself, believe in Christianity, but these Christian ministers, they were killing professional baseball in Cleveland at the time. And there were several new nicknames for the Spiders. They were called the Vagrants, the Outcasts, the Tramps, the Nomads, the Wanderers, the Exiles, and the Wandering Mix, among others. It was very hard on the players to be on the road so much. By the season's end, the players were exhausted from a never-ending road trip. Now, the season opener was in Cincinnati. The mayor of Cincinnati, William Howard Taft, threw out the ceremonial first pitch. And Spiders center fielder Jimmy Mccauley took note because in 1912, when he was with the Washington Senators, he asked President William Howard Taft to throw out the first pitch there, and it became a tradition for U.S. presidents to do. Cy Young biographer Reed Browning wrote about the challenges the Spiders players faced from having almost all the games on the road the second half of the season. Quote, "Initially, the players had hoped to demonstrate their professionalism by shrugging off the inconvenience of homelessness. But the absence of supportive crowds, the constant confrontation with home team umpiring, and the lack of familiarity with playing grounds finally took a toll on team morale. Their offensive power dissolved, and the team finished 9th in team batting averages." Now, the away games included some neutral sites, including Rochester, New York, and Weehawken, New Jersey, where President James Garfield had died. Now, the regular lineup for the 1898 Spiders, Patsy Tebow, again, was the player manager, played first base. He hit .258, 11 doubles, 4 triples, a home run, 63 RBIs, 5 stolen bases in 131 games. In July, in a game in Baltimore, Tebow threw a bat at a heckler in the stands and was arrested after the game. Yeah, so anyway, Patsy Tebow. Lou Krieger was the regular catcher. Krieger hit .279, 13 doubles, 4 triples, a home run, 32 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 84 games. Lou Krieger. Cupid Childs was the second baseman. His batting average was down. He hit .288, 9 doubles, 4 triples, a home run, 31 RBIs, 9 stolen bases in 110 games. Ed McKean was at shortstop. McKean hit .285, 23 doubles, a triple, 9 home runs, 94 RBIs, 11 stolen bases in 151 games. At third base, Bobby Wallace, he hit .270, 25 doubles, 13 triples, 3 home runs, 99 RBIs, 7 stolen bases in 154 games. In a game in April in Louisville, Kentucky, Honus Wagner, who became famous, Honus Wagner, slid hard into third base. He grabbed the ball from Wallace and heaved it into left field and ran home. The umpire ruled Wagner out for interference. So that's an interesting story. Now in the outfield, Jimmy Mccauley was our center fielder. He hit 238, 3 doubles, 48 RBIs, 7 stolen bases in 106 games. Mccauley actually had retired after the 1897 season. Patsy DeBow wanted him back and traveled to Youngstown, Ohio, Mccauley's home. And DeBow said this, quote, "Oh, I'll land him all right. He can't get away from me. First, I will open up a Saratoga full of inducements and spread them out before him. If he remains obdurate, I will try hypnotism, and I am becoming quite a smooth article in that line. We have got to have him, so that settles it." And so Mccauley was persuaded, and he returned and played for the Spiders again in 1898. Jessie Burkett, the Crab, was the regular outfielder, and he had a tremendous year. Hit 341, 18 doubles, 9 triples, 42 RBIs, 19 stolen bases in 150 games. Jessie Burkett. Harry Blake was another regular outfielder. Blake hit 245, 18 doubles, 7 triples, 58 RBIs, 12 stolen bases in 136 games. Now the bench players included Jack O'Connor, who was utility. He did a lot of catching. O'Connor hit 249, 17 doubles, 4 triples, a home run, 56 RBIs, 8 stolen bases in 131 games. Now in 1898 there was a new anti-obscenity rule. They were trying to crack down and make the game more appealing to women, and make it for families to come bring their children, and so this new rule that players would be fined, if they didn't they used foul language. The Cleveland Plain Dealer reported, quote, "Jack O'Connor has a little speech that he says will fix the umpires." Removing his cap with a Chesterfieldian air and bowing low, Jack begins something like this: "Pardon the intrusion, my dear umpire, but you do not agree with me that your decision is a slight injustice. I have no desire to question your ability or fairness, but merely suggest that under some misapprehension you have inadvertently wronged us in a slight degree." And Connor added, quote, "A fellow can learn to get just as much satisfaction out of calling him a blank blank robber or a blank blank blankety blank, and it will be cheaper too." Won't get fined. Funny guy, Jack O'Connor. Emmett Heydrich was another bench player, played in the outfield. Heydrich hit 303, 23 hits, 2 doubles, 2 triples, 8 RBIs, 3 stolen bases in 19 games. Heydrich was from Queenston, Pennsylvania. He died in Clarion, Pennsylvania in 1916 at age 39. Career average of 300, 16 home runs, 342 RBIs, 186 stolen bases. Heydrich played for the Cleveland Spiders, St. Louis Perfectos, St. Louis Cardinals, and St. Louis Browns between 1898 and 1908. He was plagued by injuries, very good on defense and a good hitter. An unusual thing is he came from a rich family. His father was successful in the lumber business. Most of the players were poor, had poor backgrounds. In 1901, his father was in an accident and accidentally killed himself by knocking over a loaded gun in the closet at home. Emmett Heydrich's son Gardner is the co-founder of the executive search firm Heydrich and Struggles, which is currently in operation, and they're a global company, Chicago-based, and they do consulting and work in leadership and culture shaping. Very interesting. Now, Chief Zimmer must have been hurt. He had been our tremendous catcher. He hit 238, 15 hits, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 20 games. Chief Zimmer, one of the best players. Now, Louis Sockalexis was back, the famous American Indian. Sockalexis hit 224, 15 hits, 2 doubles, 10 RBIs in 21 games. In 1898, as I said, the National League was cracking down on obscene language, and Sockalexis said this, quote, "I'll cuss the umpire in Penobscot, and if they call me, I'll say that I was telling them they are right, and that you fellows are dead wrong in kicking." Sockalexis offered to teach his teammates Indian words like Hikahaugo, which is robber, they could call the umpire, and Kanilanyi, green lobster. Now, even though he was sober, he was on the bench. On July 4th in Chicago, he played, and the Chicago fans threw so many firecrackers at him in right field that it was said that he was standing in a fog of blue smoke all afternoon. Sockalexis had missed the train to spring training because he was drinking. And it's the question is, what happened to him? Why did he play so little? His average was low. He never played very much. And the thing is, he was apparently there were incidents with his drinking, and then he also didn't seem to be his spirit wasn't good. He seemed to be depressed. He did go spend times where he didn't drink, but he wasn't recovering. He was just sort of miserable. And because he was an alcoholic, didn't get help because that was how it was in that era, and so he wasn't playing because he really didn't seem to have that. Didn't seem to have a strong spirit, and didn't. So anyway, it was very tragic. His career was not progressing, and anyway, God bless Louis Sockalexis. Another bench player was Sport McAllister, who was an outfielder pitcher. McAllister hit .228, 13 hits, 3 doubles, 3 triples, 9 RBIs in 17 games. And as a pitcher, McAllister was 3-4 with an ERA of 4.55, 9 games, 7 starts, and 6 complete games. Sport McAllister. Fred Frank was another spare outfielder. Frank hit .208, 11 hits, a double, a triple, 3 RBIs, a stolen base in 17 games. Frank was from Louisville, Kentucky. He died in Ashland, Kentucky in 1950 at age 77. And his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Spiders in 1898. He continued in the minor leagues until 1903. Fred Frank. Jimmy Burke was on the bench. He could play third base. Later, he was also a manager. Burke hit .105, 4 hits, a double, an RBI, a stolen base in 13 games. Burke was from St. Louis, Missouri. He died in St. Louis in 1942 at age 67. Career average of .244, 1 home run, 187 RBIs. As a manager, he won 206 games, lost 236, winning percentage of .466. He played for the Cleveland Spiders, St. Louis Perfectos, Milwaukee Brewers, Chicago White Sox, Pittsburgh Pirates, and St. Louis Cardinals between 1898 and 1905. He also was the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals in 1905 and the St. Louis Browns from 1918 to 1920. He was a coach for the Detroit Tigers, Boston Red Sox, Chicago Cubs, and New York Yankees between 1914 and 1933. And he won a World Series as a coach for the New York Yankees in 1932. Jimmy Burke. Ossie Schreckengast was a spare catcher. Schreckengast hit .314, 11 hits, 2 doubles, 3 triples, 10 RBIs, a stolen base in 10 games. Schreckengast was from New Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. He died in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1914 at age 39. Career average of .271, 9 home runs, 338 RBIs. Schreckengast played for the Louisville Cardinals, Cleveland Spiders, St. Louis Perfectos, Boston Americans, Cleveland Broncos in the American League, Philadelphia Athletics, and Chicago White Sox between 1897 and 1908. He caught Rube Waddell, famous Rube Waddell. He'd actually worked as a miner, worked in the mines. He was in the 1905 World Series with the Philadelphia A's. And his final game in 1908 was at October 2, when Eddie Joss threw a no-hitter for Cleveland, and he was on the opposing team. Perfect game. He was a roommate of Rube Waddell, who had an unpredictable and bizarre nature, and Schreckengast insisted that Waddell's contract have a, quote, no crackers in bed clause. He played with no shin guards, the last Major League Baseball catcher to do so, and Schreckengast died of uremia at age 39. Eadie Beecher was another spare outfielder. He hit 200, 5 hits, 2 doubles in 8 games. Beecher was from St. Louis, Missouri. He died in St. Louis in 1939 at age 63. Career average of .243, 9 hits, and an RBI. He played for the St. Louis Browns and Cleveland Spiders between 1897 and 1898. Eadie Beecher. Now the pitching staff, again, we had the incredible Cy Young as our ace pitcher. Young hit .253, 39 hits, 4 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 47 games. His pitching record was 25-13, ERA of 2.53, 46 games, 41 starts, 40 complete games, and a shutout. Cy Young said this, quote, "Late in June when we were alongside Boston, I had great hopes that the long-coveted pennant would be ours this year. I still think we could have won it by playing all our home games at home, and I regret exceedingly that a situation should have arisen, making it necessary to transfer our games." Cy Young, the incomparable Cy Young. The second pitcher in the rotation was Jack Powell. Powell hit 132, 18 hits, 3 doubles, a triple, 9 RBIs in 42 games. His record as a pitcher was 23-15, 3.00 ERA, 42 games, 41 starts, 36 complete games, and 6 shutouts. Good year for Jack Powell. Zeke Wilson was the third pitcher in the rotation. Wilson hit 178, 28 hits, 2 doubles, a triple, 9 RBIs, 37 games. Wilson's pitching record was 13-18 with an ERA of 3.60, 33 games, 31 starts, 28 complete games, and a shutout. Nig Cuppy was the fourth starter. Cuppy hit 104, 5 hits, a stolen base in 18 games. Cuppy's pitching record was 9-8 with an ERA of 3.30, 18 games, 15 starts, 13 complete games, and a shutout. So Cuppy's career was winding down. Tremendous career. Cowboy Jones was another pitcher. Jones hit .071, 2 hits, and an RBI, a stolen base in 9 games. Jones' pitching record was 4-4 with an ERA of 3.00, 9 starts, and 7 complete games. Cowboy Jones was from Golden, Colorado. He died in Inglewood, California in 1958 at age 83. Career record of 25-34, ERA of 3.63, 147 strikeouts. Jones played for the Cleveland Spiders, St. Louis Perfectos, and St. Louis Cardinals between 1898 and 1901. His parents were immigrants from Wales and England. He was the first Colorado-born player in the MLB and the only one in the 19th century. He continued playing in the minor leagues until 1915 at age 41. He was a college baseball coach at the Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado. He was a sheriff of Jefferson County and elected mayor of Golden, Colorado, Cowboy Jones. Another pitcher was Chick Fraser. He hit .250, 4 hits, a double, 2 RBIs, a stolen base in 6 games. Fraser was from Chicago, Illinois. He died in Wendell, Idaho in 1940 at age 66. His career record was 175-212. ERA of 3.67, 1,098 strikeouts. Fraser pitched for the Louisville Colonels, Cleveland Spiders, Philadelphia Phillies, Philadelphia Athletics, Boston Bean Eaters, Cincinnati Reds, and Chicago Cubs between 1896 and 1908. He threw a no-hitter for the Phillies in 1903. He's second all-time in hit batsman. He won World Series titles for the Chicago Cubs in 1907 and 1908. Of course, that was their last title before they ended their 108-year title drought against Cleveland in 2016. Chick Fraser lost 20-plus games 5 times. After he retired, he was an alfalfa farmer. He managed in the minor leagues. He was a coach for the Dodgers and Yankees. And before his death, he had a leg amputated. Chick Fraser. Frank Bates was another pitcher. Bates hit 111, a hit, and 9 at-bats in 4 games. His record as a pitcher was 2-1 with an ERA of 3.10, 4 starts and 4 complete games. Bates was from Cleveland, Tennessee. His death information is not known. Career record of 3-19, 6.33 ERA, 18 strikeouts. He pitched for the Cleveland Spiders, St. Louis Perfectos, and the Cleveland Spiders again between 1898 and 1899. In 1899, the Cleveland Plain Dealer wrote this, quote, "Although Bates succeeds in turning almost every game in which he participates into a howling farce, he is sent into the box in his turn, only to bring ridicule upon his unfortunate associates." So he didn't have the greatest one-loss record. In 1918, Bates was reported living in Cincinnati at age 42, working as a laborer, and that's the last information about him. Frank Bates. George Kelb was another pitcher. Kelb hit 200, 1 hit, 5 at-bats in 3 games. His pitching record was 0-1 with an ERA of 4.41, 3 games, a start, and a complete game. Kelb was from Toledo, Ohio. He died in Toledo in 1936 at age 66. And finally, Pete Mcbride was another pitcher. McBride's batting average was 1,000. He batted twice and had 2 hits, 2 RBIs in 1 game. His record as a pitcher was 0-1 with an ERA of 6.43, 1 start, 1 complete game. McBride was from Adams, Massachusetts. He died in North Adams, Massachusetts in 1944 at age 68. Career record of 2-5 with an ERA of 4.31, 32 strikeouts. McBride was pitched for the Cleveland Spiders and St. Louis Perfectos between 1898 and 1899. So that's the story of the 1898 Cleveland Spiders. It was the end of an era. They had 1 more year to play, but all the regular players were gone, and that would be the end the following year. But 2 years later, what became the Cleveland Indians would start in the American League, a different league. God bless the fellows who played for the Cleveland Spiders in 1898, and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Civil War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp Statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue Electricity, First Energy Stadium friends, Quicken Loans Arena enthusiasts, Progressive Field pals, Severance Hall stalwarts. It's been 70 years since 1948. This is our year. Thank you so much for watching. One more thing. Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, and Gladiators rule. Cleveland, City of Champions. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really, really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.